Good afternoon to everybody. Before showing my presentation, let me thank the organizing committee for this invitation at participating at the Forum 21, the first edition in US, and giving me the opportunity to share result of my research activity with this important audience. Research activity that is focused on site-specific vineyard management aimed to spread precision viticulture through the Italian vineyards. Italian vineyards that are basically characterized by hillside location, relatively small plots, characterized by important or marked within field variability that can be mapped through different technologies, mainly adopting remote and proximal sensing techniques. And one of most important approaches is the definition of vigor maps. Vineyard variability at this point can be managed and used in different ways. One is, for instance, differentiating input supply in order to make more balanced the vineyard toward the optimal vigor, and this is allowed maybe by variable rate fertilization, variable rate irrigation, and so on. And the contrary-wise variability can be also considered as a resource, can be also valorized, for instance, through selective harvesting in order to allow different wines and products coming from the same block. In both cases, the variable rate technologies allow this site-specific management, allow automation of this calibrate input supply with the final aim of optimizing the economic performance of the wineries. The current presentation will be focused on two experiments we have performed over the last years. One focused on variable rate fertilization, and the second one related to selective harvesting. So moving to the first one, the main aim was providing agronomical ground truthing of the NDVI-based vigor map, as well as evaluating long-term effects of variable rate nitrogen supply as compared to traditional standard nitrogen fertilization in vineyard. In order to respond to the experimental aim, we have worked in a Barbera vineyard that is traditional variety from our region, relatively small plots, a bit more than 0.6 hectares, working with urea that over 4 years was spread according to different strategies. So in this block that was preliminarily characterized through remote sensing by providing a vigor map with 3 different vigor classes of high, mid, and low vigor as derived by satellite imagery. We applied also we compared different fertilization strategies, including an unfertilized control with no nitrogen supply, standard fertilization with the traditional rate of about 60 kilos of nitrogen per hectare, and the variable fertilization with the nitrogen supply that was negatively correlated to vigor, with an increasing supply from high vigor to low vigor that corresponded to 120 kilos of nitrogen per hectare. So over 4 years, we performed several assessment of plant growth, yield, vine balance, and fruit composition, leading to the following results. So this picture represents the variable rate fertilization spreader that we use, that include an integrated GPS antenna, compensated automatic wetting system, so allowing this system to be used with several tractors from both new generation and old generation About the results, basically you can see in this picture that plants from high vigor were definitely different to low vigor plants, in general, with reduced total leaf area, reduced lateral leaf area, basically a reduced capacity in low vigor plants as compared to high vigor, but also as compared to mid vigor that were quite similar to high vigor zones. Other parameters were not significant in this comparison. Considering the fertilization strategies, it is interesting to note that no significant differences occurred for the same parameter I mentioned before, and apparently all the treatments performed the same way. However, important significant interactions between vigor and strategy, between vigor and year, have been detected, meaning that the vigor zones perform differently when subjected to different fertilization strategies or over years, and this is something that is expected in a variable rate application. So, for instance, considering total leaf area or the fraction related to lateral leaves, we observed that within season differences among vigor levels decreased over years, with a higher coefficient of variation at the beginning of the trial that were significantly reduced by the end of the trial. And moreover, considering the leaf blade nitrogen concentration, we can see that variable rate fertilization allow a decrease in nitrogen level in high vigor plants as compared to standard fertilization, but on the contrary, increase and promote the nitrogen content in leaves from low vigor, demonstrating that okay, this strategy can clearly represent an approach toward development of sustainable viticulture. About fruit composition, we observe two different trends when considering the factor vigor or when considering the fertilization strategy, because you see, over years at the beginning of the trial, we observed significant differences among the vigor levels in year 1 and year 2 of the trial that basically disappeared at year 3 and 4. Totally different results that was described concerning fertilization strategy, with differences that were significant just by the end of the trial, meaning that fertilization strategies and differentiation of the fertilization strategies allowed to get results in the mid to long term, of course, under the experimental context. And similar results were also described when concerning anthocyanins in grapes instead of soluble solids. The most important result, in our opinion, is what is presented in this map and in the table that I'm sharing now. In fact, this map show the boundaries of the initial vigor map that is compared with a very high resolution map that has been performed at the end of the 4 years, at the end of the trial, by using a proxy sensor like this one, a max vine sensor. And with this map, we are able to identify that the coefficient of variation of the vigor index that is detected by this max vine sensor was about 8.2%, and it was significantly reduced by the variable rate application to 1.4. This data that are reported in the lower part of the table allow to prove that variable rate fertilization is able to get a more balanced and homogeneous vineyard in mid to long term under this under the experimental context. A very important achievement for supporting spreading of this technique in future. About selective harvesting, you know that selective harvesting can be defined as a split harvest of fruits getting different ripening level within the same block. It can be performed both manually or mechanically as part of a single or a separate harvest event. It has been demonstrated that it can be effective for both red and white varieties, as well as in big and small blocks, with higher benefits for the wineries instead of the grape growers. However, the majority of the literature that's available about this topic is derived from New World countries, and in particular Australia, meaning that we need some Italian-based study and experience in order to understand the opportunity to introduce selective harvesting in our context. And this was exactly the main aim of this second experiment. Again, working in a Barbera vineyard, we performed vigor map through remote sensing by using by producing this NDVI based vigor map, where the NDVI was partitioned through 3 different classes, and over 3 years again we have assessed canopy growth, yield, so vigor indicators, fruit composition, and at harvest we have also made experimental wines to be subjected to sensory analysis in order to describe the wine sensory profile. And in parallel we perform also a survey that was targeted to experts, so growers, winemakers, consultants, in order to understand their opinion about the opportunity to introduce selective harvesting in their context, working context. And so the results, basically, the results show and confirm what we have already described for the previous trial. But anyway, significant difference, important difference between high vigor and low vigor in terms of total leaf area, berry weight, crop load, that were all definitely lower for low vigor blocks, and with the particular aspect that mid vigor were quite similar, performed quite similar to high vigor, meaning that in case of setting a prescription map for supporting selective harvesting, high vigor and mid vigor could be merged together and considered at the same level. Also because you see that the vine balance expressed as the leaf to fruit ratio was basically similar in these 2 areas, whilst it was higher and improved by the low vigor. About fruit composition, here I show just data from total soluble solid and anthocyanins in grapes. So this A and B model, A and B aggregation model, seems to be recommended for driving selective harvesting operations in all seasons. However, if in 2016 and 2018 a single harvest event seemed to be treatable and recommended, in 2017, so in the second year of trial, data show that two separate event approach seem to be much more profitable because of this important gap separating low vigor blocks with more pronounced and important ripening instead of the mid vigor and low vigor areas. Wines from low vigor were definitely much more color, full body, balance, and with longer persistence, demonstrating that within a vineyard we can get fruit that is able to that could be valorized through different winemaking processes. For instance, by separating fruits for making still wine for long aging instead of easy to drink or sparkling fruity wine. And about the results from the survey that was conducted through the experts, we observed that more than 70% of the professionals assert that within field variability can affect economic performance of the winery. So you see that this question, basically the majority, more than 70% responded that there is a high or very high impact of within field variability on the economic performances. And moreover, about 74% of the interview demonstrate high or very high interest on selective harvesting as a potential solution for handle and managing this variability. And this is the technical perception. When going into the economical consideration, selective harvesting may be very profitable for growers and much more for wine producers. That with more than 50% people that identify and high profitability for wine producers and 21% identifying a very high profitability. However, the majority of the interviewers estimate that the wineries will be less inclined to differentiate fruit pricing as based on different logical potential at the field scale. In effect, when looking at the results in this graph, you can see that the result distribution is much more normal with the highest frequency obtaining the intermediate class. So for what it concerns the availability to differentiate fruit pricing depending on within fruit variability. 123 people answered the survey, the questionnaire. So in conclusion, the low vigor status, considering both experiment 1 and experiment 2, resulted as the optimal condition in terms of canopy growth, vine balance, and yield. Of course, within this specific experimental context. This variability in the experimental context, important variability was described, and this variability was managed through variable rate fertilization. And according to this protocol, variable rate fertilization allowed to reduce vigor variability at the year 3 and 4. And this was mostly due to a faster response of high vigor to no nitrogen supply instead of an increased vigor in highly fertilized low vigor blocks. This is related to nitrogen efficiency, and a lot of discussion should be followed about this sentence. About the second experiment, so when considering ground trussing and development of selective harvesting, several similarities between mid-vigor and high vigor have been detected and should be considered when setting up the prescription map by merging together these two classes that show a similar yield potential and fruit composition potential. However, a small production of high quality wine is derived from low vigor blocks. Wines show very distinctive characteristics, and this is very important for supporting product differentiation and increasing the added value of grapes derived from the same block. That, on the contrary, should be processed in general with the entry level for making the entry level wine at the winery. So selective harvesting may be challenging, is potentially important for supporting development of viticulture in our region, but economic convenience need to be proved. Integration with logistic issues considered, and the feasibility is visibility verified, in particular for what it concerns manual versus mechanical harvesting, because we need to face with particular configuration of Italian vineyards in the hillsides. That's it. Thank you for your attention, again, for inviting me to this conference, and in case you're interested in doing additional readings, please consider this list that includes the main papers we have published about these studies. Sorry.
So thank you very much, Matteo. We have some questions coming from the audience. I will just share them with you.